Welcome to Arabiya English. I'm Tom Burges-Watson. In a surprising turn of events on Sunday night, Joe Biden announced that he will not be seeking re-election on the 2024 Democratic ticket for the US presidency. Now the political chessboard is set. The halls of power are alive with whispers and maneuvers as contenders emerge to claim the Democratic nomination and challenge the revitalized Donald Trump. Well, joining us now is the former senior advisor to the then Vice President Joe Biden. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Moe Vela. Great to have you with us. Can I just start by asking for your reaction to this announcement? And do you think it's fair to say we got to the point where President Biden really didn't have much choice but to step aside?
First of all, thanks for having me on, Tom. It's a pleasure to be with you. Look, I think, first of all, my reaction is that of mixed emotions. The Bidens are personal friends. I love them very dearly. I respect them with the utmost respect. So I'm a little sad, right, to see that this is the way, it had to end politically. However, that said, I also say, and very clearly say to the world, wow, this is a great example of the Joe Biden I know and love. He has dedicated his entire adult life to public service to our country. And just like he did the entire career, he has here at this point put our country and her people first and his party first. And so I commend him. I'm proud of his work as our president. He has done an amazing job. And I admire his integrity and his character in putting our country first.
Sure. And I just want to ask you, obviously you've stayed in close contact with the Bidens, as you just mentioned there. Let me just ask you about when you last saw President Biden. How would you say he was when you saw him last?
I was at the White House in the Rose Garden at an event with the Bidens, both of them in May for celebrating Hispanic heritage. No, actually it was Cinco de Mayo, excuse me. Hispanic Heritage Month is in September, but we were celebrating Cinco de Mayo. Look, Tom, I've felt this way for a long while. He's 81. My mom, for example, is 91, still very independent, lives alone, still driving. And so I'm used to being around vibrant, resilient folks who are in their senior years. But he's 81. You can control a lot of things, but aging and time are just two things we can't stop. And so I've always thought that he looks amazing. He is vibrant, but I also could see that he's slowing down. It's just a reality of life.
Sure. Would you say, there was a gradual decline, or would you say it happened quite quickly? And can I just ask you, as an extension of that, was there a moment, sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, if you like, when it just became absolutely clear that President Biden was going to have to drop out?
You know what, Tom? I think it just as with all of us, it's a slow decline, right? I'll be 63 in October. I now catch myself trying to remember certain names, or forgetting certain names and things like that. But it's a slow decline. That's the way life works. And I don't think everybody needs to pile on and remind Joe Biden every single minute of every day that he's 81. Donald Trump, 78, I believe, right behind him, and also stumbling at times with his words, rambling, and, 92-minute convention speech. So this is part of life. So I don't want to engage in ageism in any way, but a slow decline is probably the best way to describe it. For me, the moment was that debate. My father, for example, had dementia for 18 years. So I'm not suggesting the president has dementia. I'm not implying that or suggesting that. But what I did see at that debate was just, it wasn't on his game. And he was really, really struggling, I think, cognitively. It could have been from exhaustion. It could have been from illness. But to me, it was indicative that this gradual decline, or these challenges, were getting more apparent. And you know what? He's earned the right first to make his decision based on his terms, which he did, and on his timeline, which he did. He deserves that respect and that dignity from us. And second, he also deserves, after he finishes his presidency, to go enjoy his beach house, to be with Dr. Biden, enjoy his family and his grandchildren, and probably soon great grandchildren, maybe in the future. And he's earned that. So I'm excited for them, as well as I'm sad to see them go, but I'm excited for them to go enjoy the love they all have for one another and their family. He's earned that.
Sure. Just looking forwards now, Mo. I mean, do you think Kamala Harris is the right person to be on the ticket now for the party? And do you think she stands a good chance against Donald Trump?
I do. I think she's the right person to be the nominee, and I think she's going to beat Donald Trump. And I am not just saying that from a political perspective. I'll tell you why I believe that this is going to revitalize and revive the Democratic Party. I think what you're seeing already immediately is a unification of the party. This should scare Donald Trump. He should be shaking in his little loafers, because what you're seeing is the Democratic Party coming together very quickly around Kamala Harris. And I'll tell you, Tom, what I think is going to be, I call it political fun, but if our democracy wasn't at stake, I wouldn't be using the word fun in that context. So, but from a political perspective, this is going to be interesting, momentous, and historic. And just think about this for a second, Tom. You've got a convicted felon who sexually assaulted a woman, who paid a porn star hush money, who cheated on all of his wives, running against a woman who put sexual predators in jail as the Attorney General of California. She's running against a sexual predator. So I believe when Donald Trump bragged about taking away women's reproductive freedom and reproductive rights, and decided it was time to take away the right for women to decide what to do with their own bodies, and he's running against a woman, I think women in this country are about to step up, rise up, unite, and they're going to rally and vote in unprecedented numbers. And when women in this country vote in unprecedented numbers, we win. And that's my prediction right there.
Sure, that's as may be, but Donald Trump is still leading in quite a lot of the polls, isn't he?
Not necessarily against her. There are a couple of polls I just saw last night where she's up by 1 or 2 on him, and in some swing states. So, by the way, throw out all the old polls and wait about 30 more days until after the Democratic convention, and then call me back and we'll get on again and talk about polls. The polls up till now are irrelevant.
Sure. Okay, we will call you back.
Word. I've been in this business since I was 19 years old. And I'm telling you, polls don't matter now. They'll matter in about a month or so when she's actually the nominee, and when she's out on the campaign trail as the nominee, when she announces her vice presidential running mate. There are a lot of things that are about to happen, like a flurry of activity that could impact those poll numbers. Let's wait and see what happens.
Yeah, 15 weeks ago, and clearly lots could happen between now and then. Let me just ask you, you mentioned the First Lady, Jill Biden, just a short while ago. I just wonder whether you had any insights as to what sort of a role she's been playing behind the scenes. You know, what's your interpretation of her role in the Biden presidency backstage?
You know, I think that the media, frankly, with all due respect to all of you, I have a lot of respect for the media, but I think they went into a frenzy on this whole issue of his cognitive decline, and then somebody caught on to the story about spreading information about her and how much control she had and how participatory she was in everyday Oval Office activities. Listen, I love her. I admire her. I respect her with the utmost respect. She's a brilliant, amazing lady, but she's also not a control freak. She's his partner. She's his wife. They love each other very dearly. He's been faithful to her and her to him. And let me tell you, it's not in her nature and it's not her style to be, interjecting herself or injecting herself into Oval Office activities. That's just not the Dr. Biden I know and worked for and that I love. I promise you, those are all just media frenzy stories. Somebody was trying to find a scapegoat. Somebody was trying, just to create a story. I don't think any of that is true. And it's certainly not reflective of the woman that I admire.
Okay, and just lastly, I mean, we've had people paying tribute to President Biden these last 24 hours, looking back at his 5-decade-long political career. Donald Trump not quite so generous in his choice of words. He called him the worst US president in the history of the country. How do you think President Joe Biden will be remembered?
This is a no-brainer, Tom. Some of the most impactful legislation in modern times, if not in American history, were passed under his leadership and his direction, under his tenure as president. It's really rich to hear Donald Trump call Biden the worst president in American history when every historian that I've seen ranks Trump in the bottom 2 or 3, if not the bottom. I think history will reflect very fondly, very highly, and very positively on Biden's administration as president of this country. The legislative successes, the job creation in the millions. He inherited an economy that was in complete free fall and disaster. It's not back to perfect. It's not back to even normal, but it is better than what he got. And he brought a conclusion to this pandemic after it was handled in such a poor manner by Donald Trump. Literally, I have said it then, I'll say it the rest of my life. Donald Trump has blood on his hands. That's how badly he handled the pandemic. And so you can just keep going, a litany of accomplishments by Joe Biden. I think history will reflect very favorably on his presidency. And the fact that he saved our democracy. I think people are forgetting this Donald Trump character, is headed toward a dictatorship and a theocracy. And so he saved our democracy. And now look how he's going to have a legacy ending decision by getting out of this race. His legacy is going to be stellar. It's just stellar. And history will always be kind to him. I'm overwhelmingly confident of that.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And I'm afraid we're out of time. Moe Vela, former senior advisor to the then Vice President Joe Biden. Thank you very much indeed to you for your time. And thanks to you for being with us here on Al Arabiya English.